My dad raised me to be a man of my word. He taught me how to change a tire, how to shave, how to keep my promises. So you can imagine how it felt to sit across from him, hand him a copy of my ex-wife's custody lawsuit, and calmly ask, "How does betrayal taste with 2 creams and no sugar?" I used to believe betrayal came with warning signs, shady looks, whispered calls, something dramatic like a slammed door or a shouted confession. Turns out, sometimes betrayal shows up on your doorstep tucked inside a beige envelope. I'm Marcus, 34 years old. I'm a high school teacher and a dad first and always. My son's name is Caleb. He's 7, and he likes dinosaurs, chocolate milk, and pretending he's a superhero with cardboard wings taped to his back. He's got this wild, lopsided grin that he only does when he's really proud of himself. He's my entire reason for breathing. His mom, Jenna, and I split up a little over a year ago. We were married for 5 years, but the love didn't last. I don't even blame her entirely for that. We were young, too fast, too wrapped up in the fantasy of being a family to notice that we weren't actually friends. Things started slipping right after Caleb turned 4. We argued more than we talked. She became cold and restless. I worked extra hours to make ends meet. She resented that, I think. I resented her resenting it. You get the picture. When we finally separated, we agreed, amicably, believe it or not, that Caleb would live with me during the school year. She got weekends, some holidays, and summers. I wasn't trying to keep him from her. She just didn't have the stability yet. New apartment, new job. She even admitted, "He's better off with you right now." That arrangement held for a while, until last Tuesday. I got home late from parent-teacher conferences. Caleb was already asleep, sprawled diagonally across my bed with socks half off like usual. I kissed his forehead, dropped my keys in the bowl, and noticed a manila envelope wedged under the door. No stamp, just my name. I opened it right there on the kitchen counter, half expecting something from the district or maybe a forgotten medical bill. Instead, petition to modify child custody agreement. From Jenna, claiming I was limiting her access to Caleb, that I was creating an emotionally unhealthy environment. And there it was, on the 3rd page. Witness for petitioner, Thomas Green, my father. I read it again, and then I just stood there, staring at the paper like it would change. Let me paint you a picture of my dad. He's the kind of man people call solid. Worked in construction his whole life. Always had rough hands and a no-nonsense voice. He taught me how to mow a lawn in straight lines, how to never talk back to a coach or a teacher, how to be a real man. He wasn't always affectionate, but he was present. Every game, every birthday, every late-night fever. After my divorce, he said, "You're doing good, son. Raising Caleb the right way." Said it like a badge of honor. So you tell me how that same man ends up backing my ex-wife in a court case that could take my son away from me? I didn't scream. I didn't even call him. I just sat down at the table and stared at that stupid envelope for an hour. My mind kept playing this reel of memories. Me helping him clean out his gutters last fall. Him reading a story to Caleb on the porch. Him telling me I'd stepped up more than most men would. And now this? I called him the next day. "Hey Dad, want to come by Wednesday? I'll make coffee." He didn't even hesitate. "Of course, same time? We have coffee every Wednesday. It's our thing." Started it after the divorce to keep things normal for Caleb. I didn't cancel. I didn't rage. I planned. Wednesday came. I made his favorite dark roast, 2 creams, no sugar. Set the court papers on the table like placemats. When he knocked, I opened the door, smiled, and said, "Morning." He smiled back, totally oblivious. We sat. He sipped. I waited. Then I slid the papers across the table. He blinked. I looked him right in the eyes and asked, "Tell me, Dad, how's betrayal taste with coffee?" He didn't touch the papers at first. Just stared at them like they might catch fire if he looked too long. Then he shifted in his seat, cleared his throat, and gave me that signature frown of his. The one he used to wear when I'd forgotten to mow the backyard or dented the truck bumper in high school. But this wasn't a dent. This was a crater. "What's this supposed to be?" he asked. I sipped my coffee. Page 3. Second name listed under witness for petitioner. That's you, right? He reached for the papers with a slow, deliberate hand. His eyes scanned them. I could almost hear the gears grinding in his head. He winced. Son, don't, I said flat. Please, not yet. I need to know which part of that document you thought was okay. Was it the part where Jenna says I'm emotionally unstable? Or the part where she wants full custody? He opened his mouth, closed it. I kept going, because I've read it 5 times and every time I think there's no way my dad signed off on this. There's no way he's testifying for the woman who hasn't picked Caleb up on time in 2 months and once tried to FaceTime him while at a bar with some guy whispering in her ear. He shifted again, his knee bouncing under the table now. I didn't testify. She just asked if I'd be willing to answer a few questions. That's all it was. Dad. I leaned forward. You agreed to speak in her favor. In a custody hearing. That's not just chatting. That's not casual. That's war. You picked a side. And it wasn't mine. I didn't pick anything, he shot back, voice rising. She came to me upset, saying you were shutting her out, saying you barely let her talk to Caleb anymore. I didn't know it was going to court. You didn't ask? I cut in. You just took her word for it and decided maybe she's the better parent now? He looked down. Silence. I looked at my dad then, really looked at him. The man who held my bike steady when I was 7. The man who taught me how to throw a spiral and made hot dogs on the grill every 4th of July. The man who sat on my couch a year ago watching Caleb open Christmas presents and said, he's lucky to have you. And here he was, sitting across from me, not denying it. I never said she was better, he mumbled. But you were willing to help her prove it, I said. In court. I thought maybe if I heard both sides, I could help you two figure it out. I didn't realize it had gone this far. I laughed, but it was hollow. It's been this far for a year. You've seen it. You've seen her blow off her weekend visits. You've seen Caleb cry when she cancels. You've seen me juggling work and pickup schedules and school projects. And now you want to play peacemaker? By handing her ammo. He ran a hand over his face, rough and shaky. She told me you were letting your anger cloud your judgment. That you were keeping Caleb from her to punish her. I stared at him. Do you believe that? He didn't answer. That was my answer. The weight in my chest settled lower. It wasn't just betrayal. It was disbelief. My dad didn't trust me. He'd known me my whole life, seen me scrape together every ounce of energy I had to keep things afloat for Caleb, and still, he believed Jenna when she said I was out for revenge. I stood up. Slowly. My legs felt heavy. He looked up, confused. Where are you going? I think we're done, I said. Unless you've got something else you want to explain. Maybe how long you've been having these little chats with her. How many stories she's fed you while I was at work or picking up groceries or helping Caleb with math homework you'd never bother to ask about. He rose too, holding a hand out like he could stop the moment midair. Marcus, wait son, I didn't mean to, Don't call me that right now. My voice broke a little and that made me angrier than anything else. You're not the one who has to explain to my kid why his mom's dragging us to court. You're not the one who's got to worry what a judge thinks about your parenting. And you're definitely not the one who has to fall asleep every night wondering if you're doing enough. He stood there, arms limp, mouth slightly open. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. I grabbed the rest of the documents off the table and tucked them back into the envelope. I'll let the lawyers handle it from here, I said, walking toward the door. Marcus, he said again, softer. I opened the door, held it for him. He walked past me slowly. But just before he stepped outside, he paused. I thought I was doing the right thing, he said, not meeting my eyes. She sounded like she needed help. She did, I said, closing the door behind him. But not yours. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I laid there in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan while Caleb snored softly from the other room. Every few minutes, my mind would circle back to the kitchen table, to my father's face when he realized I knew. I kept replaying it, his hesitation, the way he called me son, like that was supposed to mean something now. Like the word son was a rope strong enough to pull me out of the hole he helped dig. The next morning, I called my attorney. Nothing fancy, just a family lawyer recommended by one of the teachers at my school. Her name's Lydia, and thank God for her. Calm, sharp, and no nonsense. She listened quietly as I filled her in on everything, the witness list, the conversation with my father, the fact that Jenna hadn't so much as hinted at her plans until those papers showed up at my door. She's trying to flip the script, Lydia said. Make you the aggressor. Use your full custody history against you. But I've had custody because she asked me to take it, I said. She wasn't ready. She'll say you manipulated her into that agreement, Lydia replied. And if your father testifies that you've been controlling or emotionally difficult. I'm not, I know. But this isn't about what you are. It's about what you can prove. I sat there, the phone warm against my cheek, rubbing the back of my neck. So what do? You start documenting everything, she said. Every missed pickup, every late visit, every text where she cancels on Caleb. And we prep your statement. You'll be heard, Marcus. But we've got to make it loud enough for the judge to listen. That night, I pulled out a folder. Started printing screenshots of texts. Sorry, can't take him this weekend, work's a mess, let's reschedule, I'll call later, and then nothing. I made notes about the time she dropped him off with a stranger, some new boyfriend I didn't know, from her car window, and sped off. I even wrote down the little things, the time she forgot it was his birthday week, the time Caleb asked, "Why doesn't mom like coming here?" It was like bleeding onto paper. But it needed to be done. A week later, the first hearing came. Just a preliminary one, setting dates, reviewing the petition, but Jenna showed up in this carefully constructed version of herself. Clean lines. Soft makeup. Hair curled like a mother in a toothpaste commercial. She even brought her own mother, which made me laugh under my breath. She didn't even look at me. Her lawyer stood and rattled off a bunch of language about adjustments, instability, and revisiting parenting schedules for the emotional benefit of the child. I wanted to shout that this wasn't about Caleb. This was about her wanting control now that she'd pulled herself together enough to miss him. Lydia stood up, calm and precise, and requested we maintain the current custody arrangement until evidence was reviewed. Then the judge asked a simple question: "Are there any witnesses intending to testify?" Jenna's lawyer nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. Thomas Green, maternal grandfather." The judge looked up. "Paternal, you mean?" "Correct. Apologies. The father's father." It felt like swallowing glass. "My father. My own blood." Confirmed out loud, like a fact. Like gravity. I glanced back instinctively. He wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. Cowards rarely show up to the first punch. Afterward, I drove straight to his house. It wasn't planned. I just turned. The tires followed a path older than the betrayal. He answered the door in his usual uniform, flannel shirt, old boots, that same damn wristwatch he's had since I was 10. "Marcus," he said, surprised. "What are you, you're going to testify?" I asked, standing on the porch. "In court. Against me." His jaw tensed. I told her I'd tell the truth. That's all. The truth. I laughed bitter and low. "You don't know the truth. You weren't there when I was pacing the hallway at 3 a.m. trying to get Caleb back to sleep after she missed another visit. You weren't there when he asked me if I thought mom forgot his favorite color. You weren't there when I found out she left him with a man I'd never met because she had a hair appointment." He looked down. "She said you've been keeping him from her." "She said that," I snapped. "And you just believed her? Didn't bother to ask me?" His voice was tight. "You've always been intense. Hard-headed. Stubborn. I got that from you." He didn't deny it. Then I said the one thing I hadn't planned but couldn't stop myself from saying. "If you walk into that courtroom and stand behind her, you don't come back from that, Dad. There's no coffee afterward. No hey son texts. No Sunday dinners. Nothing." He blinked. I saw something flicker. Regret? Fear? Pride? I couldn't tell anymore. "I'm not trying to hurt you," he said, barely above a whisper. "You already did." I walked away. This time, he didn't stop me. The next few weeks passed like I was holding my breath underwater. School kept me just busy enough not to spiral. Lesson plans, parent emails, the constant shuffle of teenage energy bouncing off the walls, it helped keep the panic tucked somewhere in my ribs. But at night, it came back. Heavy. Unavoidable. Caleb stayed his cheerful self, mostly. He didn't know about the court stuff. I wanted to keep it that way as long as possible. He still drew pictures of all three of us, me, him, Jenna, with bright blue skies and giant suns wearing sunglasses. There was always a dinosaur, too. A.T. Rex in a rocket ship or a triceratops with a briefcase. That's how he copes. He turns things into stories where the good guys always win. I wasn't sure we were going to. Jenna's lawyer sent over a list of demands. She wanted full legal custody. Final say on Caleb's school, doctors, therapists, everything. She also wanted to revisit the child support arrangement despite the fact that she barely covered a thing even under the current agreement. It was absurd, but it wasn't surprising. What did surprise me was the deposition. My father showed up for it. I wasn't in the room. Lydia explained that witnesses are questioned separately, but afterward, she walked out with a look I hadn't seen before. She's always composed, that perfect lawyer poker face, but that day she looked disappointed. "What happened?" I asked. She sighed. He didn't say anything overtly damaging. But he was vague, evasive. He said things like, Marcus is a good father, but he can be stubborn. He gets worked up easily. Jenna's been through a lot. That kind of thing. I ran a hand through my hair. So he gave them just enough. Just enough to make you look unstable without coming off malicious, she said. It's not a death sentence, but it muddies the water. I felt something cave in my chest. Not a break, just another crack in a structure that used to feel solid. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, I sat on the edge of his bed and just watched him breathe. His cheeks were flushed from sleep, and he was clutching a green plastic stegosaurus to his chest like it was a lifeline. I tucked the blanket higher and whispered, I've got you, buddy. No matter what. And then the question I'd been dreading finally came. It was a Sunday. I'd made pancakes, his favorite, and he was happily dunking pieces in syrup when he looked up and asked, Why is Mommy mad at you? I froze, spatula in hand. Did she say that? I asked gently. She said you don't want to share me anymore, he said. She said you're trying to keep me away from her. I sat down. Carefully. Hey, look at me. He did. That's not true. Okay? I'm not trying to keep you from anyone. I want you to have both of us in your life. I just want to make sure you're safe and happy. That's my only job. He stared at me, quiet for a moment, then nodded like he was filing it away under important grown-up stuff. Then he asked if we could go to the dinosaur museum again. Anytime, I said. The court date came faster than I expected. Jenna was there in her polished armor, navy dress, pearls, that neutral expression she's so good at. Her lawyer looked confident, flipping through a binder like it held the ending to a story he'd already written. I wore my one good suit. Caleb was with a sitter. My father sat 2 rows behind her. Not with me. He didn't look at me when I walked in. Not when I took the stand. Not when Jenna's lawyer asked me whether I'd ever raised my voice during an exchange. I had. Once. When she was over an hour late and Caleb was crying. She said you were angry, he prompted. I was angry, I replied. Because my son was upset. Because his mom didn't show up when she said she would. Lydia stepped in and dismantled most of their arguments. She brought in attendance logs from Caleb's school showing consistency. Therapist notes stating his current environment was emotionally stable. A notarized list of every missed or shortened visit from Jenna over the past year. Then she surprised me. She called a rebuttal witness I didn't expect. My neighbor. Mrs. Reynolds. Widowed. Retired librarian. Knits sweaters for squirrels in the winter and keeps watch on our street like it's her mission from God. She stepped up, swore in, and said clearly, I've seen Marcus with his son almost every day. He reads to him on the porch. Plays soccer in the yard. Walks him to the bus stop. That boy is happy and that man is present. Every day. It was the simplest testimony of the day and the most powerful. I glanced back. My dad finally looked at me. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He just looked. And for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen since I was a teenager, shame. The judge didn't announce the decision that day. Said he wanted time to review everything. I appreciated that at least someone was taking this seriously, not just reacting to polished performances and well-dressed drama. Still, it meant waiting. Waiting meant more sleepless nights, more tight-lipped mornings, more pretending everything was fine so Caleb wouldn't feel the storm brewing behind his cereal bowl. I kept my routines. School. Dinners. Bedtime stories. But everything felt like I was holding it together with threadbare string. Even Lydia seemed tenser each time we spoke. It's close, she'd say. But we did everything we could. 2 weeks later, I got the call. Lydia's voice was calm. We won, she said. The judge ruled to maintain the existing custody agreement. No changes. He cited Jenna's inconsistency and noted Caleb's current environment as stable and supportive. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the floor, chest hollowed out by weeks of anxiety. It was over. I still had my son. Marcus? Lydia asked. I cleared my throat. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. She exhaled softly. You did good. This wasn't just a legal win, it was a parenting win. That night, I picked up Caleb from school and took him out for ice cream. He didn't know what we were celebrating, just that Dad seemed lighter, like something had lifted. I let him get 2 scoops. Jenna didn't text. But the next day, my father showed up. Unannounced. Just knocked on the door like this was a normal Wednesday. I opened it and stared at him. He held a small paper bag. From that bakery you like, he said. Those apple turnovers. I didn't invite him in. He shifted awkwardly. I heard the ruling. Yeah, I said. He looked down. I guess I wanted to say. I was wrong. I folded my arms. That's a start. He nodded slowly. I thought I was helping. I thought I was being fair. but I wasn't seeing what was in front of me. You didn't just step up, Marcus. You became the kind of dad I always hoped to be. That hit me harder than I expected. You could have told her no, I said. You could have had my back. Instead, you made it harder. I know, he whispered. And I'll carry that. We stood there, the silence thick between us. I didn't say I forgave him. I wasn't there yet. But I took the bag from his hand and said, thanks for the turnovers. He gave a quiet nod, turned, and walked back to his truck. I closed the door. Inside, Caleb was building a Lego T-Rex on the living room floor, humming to himself. I set the turnovers on the counter and leaned in the doorway watching him. Still mine. Still home. Still us. My dad started texting again after the court decision. Little things. How's Caleb doing? Got that lawnmower working yet? Saw your old high school's game on the news. They won. I read them all. Didn't always respond. I didn't have the words, and frankly, I didn't owe him that much. Caleb asked once if Grandpa was mad at me. No, I said carefully. We just don't see eye to eye right now. That happens sometimes with grown-ups. He nodded like he understood. Then he said, can I still draw him dinosaurs? So I mailed my dad one of Caleb's pictures of a velociraptor wearing a tie and holding a briefcase. I didn't include a note. Just the drawing. That felt like enough. A few weekends later, my father showed up again. He knocked, holding a 6-pack of root beer and some of Caleb's favorite cookies. Thought I could hang out for a bit, he said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I don't think that's a good idea right now, I told him. Not until I know you understand the weight of what you did. He looked down, nodding slowly. I'm trying, Marcus. I know, I said. But trying doesn't erase choices. There was a time when I would have invited him in anyway. When I would have buried my own anger just to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to prove I was the bigger man. But I've changed. Fatherhood did that to me. You learn to protect what matters. You learn to draw lines even if they shake. He handed me the cookies and walked away without another word. I brought them inside, set them on the counter, and went to sit beside Caleb, who was building a rocket ship for his Stegosaurus. Want to help? He asked. Yeah, I said, picking up a piece. Let's make it strong. Weeks passed. Then a month. Jenna didn't file anything else. She still got her weekends when she remembered. Sometimes she showed up on time. Sometimes she called in sick. I didn't chase her. I didn't cover for her. I let the gaps show. Caleb stopped asking why. He just adjusted the way kids do when the people around them keep things stable. One Saturday morning, he asked if we could go to the museum again. Absolutely, I said. Want to bring a friend? He thought for a second, then said, just you. We spent the whole day among fossils and gift shop plastic. He held my hand without thinking twice, and I didn't take a single second for granted. That night, after he fell asleep with his new stuffed pterodactyl clutched in his arms, I sat alone on the couch. I opened my phone and looked at the text from my dad I hadn't responded to. Let me know when you're ready. I typed. I'm not ready, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just different now. I hit send and turned the phone face down. Some people don't get to walk back into your life the same way they left it. Even if they're family. Even if they're sorry. Especially if they weren't there when you needed them most. Forgiveness doesn't always come with a key to the house. Sometimes it just means peace in your own chest and a front door you can lock without guilt.